My feelings regarding Songque have been conflicting so far. On one hand, she's a cute blonde that gave away candy to children in the past, and she's a great guide and friend to the main cast. On the other hand, we've heard that before, and it didn't end well. She was a thief in the past, her title is Shoe of Deception, so she could be plain friends this entire time. She threatened us when we met her for the first time, and she does some suspicious things behind everyone's backs. My mind is split in two. She drives me crazy more than Thelema at this point. So let's discuss Songque and hopefully we'll find out what's really going on here. The obvious place to start would be our first meeting with her, where she acts completely differently than how she acts in the rest of this arc. She immediately starts toying with us, talking about fate, threatens us like I mentioned before, and dances around the point like she's Perception. Let's not worry about that for now though. Let's just try and see what Songque has to say. The first thing she says is trouble has found us. Either she's talking about the shadows or herself. Take a guess. Same kind of thing here. Should we be scared of you, Songque? Perhaps. She asks if we believe in fate, and that combined with the fact that she calls us friend already, and this sentence that's just a confusing way of telling us that she's a fortune teller, it seems like we were destined to meet, and she knows it. One major piece of evidence for this that I deemed random at the time is that after Songque arrives, Dreamseeker goes from feeling like this is a horrific, dilapidated landscape to feeling like it's a busy street where she's waiting for a friend. The game makes sure to clarify this, so that must mean something. She also connected a shadow line between us. Did she steal our shadow? For what reason? Okay, now let's go back to her acting completely differently. This is the only time we see her like this. The next time we see her, she acts like she doesn't know us. There are two other instances where this other her slips out. When Songque is still teaching them about this world in the beginning, she says bigger is always better, the more friends the merrier. When Senna asks if that's really the saying, Songque says beats me, but my master is always rattling them off regardless. Suddenly, she shakes her head violently and says, "Don't you come chiming in now." Additionally, when we found out that Songque was the leader of the fear gathering and Senna compliments her, Songque downplays it, then points to her fear gathering device and says, if you want to do business with the shadows, she's your only shot. She may not seem the nicest, but then she stops herself and goes, hey, bad self. If you look at these two examples back to back, it's clear she has some sort of split personality. Furthermore, both times the side of her popped out, she hinted at other shoes. The first time it happened is also the first time we hear of her master, which is Baiji. The second time, she pointed to this artifact and said she's your only shot, referencing Ajita. You know, on second thought, I kinda like this other Songque. Instead of being sketchy, she's no nonsense. She's trying to give us the secrets of this place right off the bat, and I appreciate that. These are the only two times that it happens though. She's her normal sneaky self the rest of the arc. So this seems like a case gone cold. We don't have enough information. Or do we? Let's go back in time to September of 2023, where part 2 was first announced. In one scene, we see Songque on a chair. In another, Songque suddenly floating in the air. This is very scary. Okay, that did not work. Next to her is Litost. He pulls back his hood and his left eye glows. After that, the Songque in the chair, her eyes begin to glow similarly to Litost. She looks up and her eyes glow again. Do you have something to tell us, emo boy? Did you control this girl in the past? Is that signified by the other floating Songque near you? She becomes a different person when you control her? There's definitely something going on with the split personality thing. But let's shift gears and talk about Litost's relationship with Songque. The only time we see Litost interacting with Songque is this memory. One sign of connection we see is that she calls him Uncle Litost, which is a bit different than the rest of the shoes, and I'll tell you why later in this video. The memory reveals that Litost was the one that made her aware of the anchor's existence. He says the reason it's here is to proclaim that we only exist by the grace of others. Litost said something similar to Baiji. I wonder if he graced Songque as well. Litost wants Songque to go into the pathway when she gets the chance because unlike him, she deserves freedom even if it's difficult for her to bear. One of Litost's mysteries that we haven't figured out yet is this grave sin of his. That grave sin is what led him to want death so much. He couldn't live with himself. A similar thing is going on with Songque. She committed this heinous crime that deserves the death penalty. I know every one of the shoes committed crimes deserving the death penalty. That's kind of the thing they're based around. But unlike the others who were misguided or led them on a sinful past due to being a victim of unfortunate circumstance, Litost and Songque willfully chose to do what they did, and now it haunts them. Even though Litost knows of the evil she's done, he still knows that she's a good person at heart. She gives treats to the kids, she lies to the elderly in order to make them live out their last days happily rather than in fear, and he may also know that she was a victim of unfortunate circumstance, which led her to do what she did. So he wants her to be happy. That being said, he does control her somewhat and encourages her to deceive people, so maybe he's not good? I'm confused. As I said, Songque calls him Uncle Litost, and that's most likely because they share this with each other. She calls every other shoe by just their name and only their name, nothing else added to it. But there is one other shoe that she gives a title to, and that's Baiji, baby. When Songque is talking about the box of memories in time, she repeats how he is very protective of it and says touching it was a big no-no, even for me. That last part establishes a special connection with Baiji. She is very protective of Baiji. For example, in Seraphim's consciousness, Dreamseeker comes up with a plan and said that Seraphim was greater than Baiji while bad-mouthing him, and Songque just can't stand for that. I thought she was playing along with Dreamseeker at first, but judging by Coralie's facepalm, that is not the case. While Songque calling Dreamseeker a nerd is adorable, it seems like she protects Baiji blindly. So Baiji must reciprocate, right? He seems like a good guy. He even said she was the most important part of the plan to eradicate the shadows. He's putting her on a pedestal as well. This seems like a nice and healthy relationship that these two have. Not really, because in one of Lantern's anecdotes, Vajra Candy, once Lantern saves her and puts Songque down, Songque tries to adjust herself, but she still had trouble talking, which meant she would probably have nothing to eat for the next few days. Oh, what do you mean by that? Baiji, are you not letting this woman eat? You can tell me, you can trust me. I won't tell a soul. The sin must be pretty bad if she follows you even after this. Does she feel like this is an acceptable punishment for her crime? In Litost's anecdote, Baiji states that what he's looking for is neither good deeds nor sins. To him, they are all weights to maintain balance. So maybe Songque is the exact exact balance that Baiji is looking for. She's done a terrible, terrible thing, but has also done a ton of great things. So is she the perfect specimen in Baiji's eyes? Does he need a quote-unquote balanced human to be able to fend off the shadows? Since the shadows are terribly evil beings who only want the worst for humanity, and Songque did something terribly evil as well, can she get the closest to defeating the shadows? It seems like she has special relations with both of the men in the group.
Oh, I see. So that you're saying that she's a skank.
That could be the case, random voice in my head. But the more accurate scenario would be that they're both punishing her for her crime. But what even is her crime? I was going to end the video here, but in the past few days, I became aware of something. There is one anecdote in the game that talks about Songque's past, where Songque and someone named Anne are both going through tough times. They are both insanely thin, they almost have frostbite from the cold, and are living in a hay shack. Long story short, Anne dies, leaving Songque all alone to fend for herself. And I told my friends about this story, and they both came to the exact same conclusion, that Songque ate Anne. At first I laughed it off because that is insanely dark and I wouldn't think Hawkeye would go that far, but considering puzzle exists, I don't think they're afraid to go down that path, and now that I'm reading it again, the implications are kinda there. Both Songque and Anne are really thin, meaning they haven't eaten in a while. It clarifies that Songque scrounged around for food and found absolutely nothing, and Anne dies, leaving Songque with nothing else but a fresh corpse. Did I mention that there's no food lying around? I don't like what these context clues are telling me, but all I will say is desperation makes you do some crazy stuff, man. What do you guys think about all of this? I think Songque possibly being a cannibal is a bit far-fetched and insane, but it's a possibility, so I mentioned it. That is it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you in the next video.